Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Noble Gaming. Today we continue our case study of RAWR, a bronze Zerg player, and we will be looking at the decisions he makes during games and what he does well and what he can improve upon. And StarCraft 2 is an amazing game because you always have something to improve upon. So, the matchup is Zerg versus Protoss and Metalocalypse. What do we know about Metalocalypse? We know that, it's got a sweet natural, fairly easy to defend. It's sort of a longer map. It's not uber macro, but it's not tiny micro either. So it's a good size, much like Shakura's Plateau for a 1v1. And because you do not necessarily instantly know where your opponent has spawned, it makes it a little bit easier for Zerg players to do a fast expansion. A little bit. Alright, so first Overlord was sent astray. He was sent to the middle of the map, and that poor Overlord would have been more efficient had he been sent to the bottom right, or the 3 o'clock position roughly, 2:30 maybe, and just to see if the enemy spawned there. Alright, so as you can see from RAWR's build, he's going 15 drone. So at this point you really have to decide, what are you doing? Spawning pool? Are you going for a hatchery? And as you can see, RAWR's going for a spawning pool. In my opinion, spawning pool should always be accompanied by an extractor, just because slow Zerglings are pretty useless Zerglings, and you never want useless Zerglings. But yeah, so RAWR is keeping his drone count fairly high, and I'm assuming he's going to be going for an expansion soon, because otherwise he would get an extractor. So he's getting tons of minerals right now. Look at the production. He's got an Overlord. Bam! Okay, so he's I'd say he got the Overlord just a little bit too early. But, oh, no, build a hatchery, little drone. No, don't wander away. Oh no. Alright. Okay, so his minerals are getting very high, and one thing you should always keep in mind is Zerg. When your minerals are getting high, you should always have a plan for how you're going to spend your money next. Whether that's building more economy, whether that's building more military units, more farms, more overlords. You should have ways to spend your money reasonably intelligently. And when you do that, you will be a much better player. Just having an idea of what your choices are in terms of intelligent buildings. Okay, so as we can see, he's got a queen under production, he's got a roach warren under production, he's got another hatchery under production, and he has 16 drones. Okay, so he just popped a bunch of Zerglings. So these Zerglings can be used for several different things. You should look at your Zerglings. Look at your Zerglings. Okay. Oh man, that Protoss player is microing the crap out of that probe, I think. Or possibly something else. Alright, so he has 6 Zerglings right now. 6 Zerglings means he can capture the center points of the map, the Zelnaga Towers. It means that he can put 1 Zergling right outside his opponent's natural to get an idea of when he expands or when he moves out. And he has 3 Zerglings that can just sort of chill out. In the beginning of the game, you really have to manage your larva very carefully as a Zerg player. You have to... Every drone, or every larva that doesn't turn into a drone, costs you economy. Okay. Oh, no, look down, RAWR, look down. Ah, it's too late now. Okay, okay, so RAWR. As you can see, his queen's missing a few larva injects, which is sort of bad. The reason you get queens are, A, they make your macro that much more... I want to say better, but I think that's terrible English. That much more better. But yeah, primarily they're there for larva injects, and queens, especially once your money and gas start getting a little bit out of control, they help to keep it down just by blowing their nose all over the hatchery and causing it to transform into a layer. Can you imagine how self-conscious that queen feels about her sneezing? Okay, so RAWR has a lot of extra money. Extra money is, I want to say never a good thing, but it can sort of be if you're planning on using it, like if you're just building it up to build some crazy units. But this early on in the game, it's a bad thing, because there's always something you should be spending your minerals on, whether that's just pumping out more drones, getting a macro hatchery, building more queens, building more overlords so you don't get supply blocked, building spine crawlers for defense, building military units to attack, harass. There's always something to spend your money on, and you just have to be aware. So, one bad habit that you can sort of note off the bat that RAWR has is he's scared to move off the group. Okay, so he just built a huge army, see? So he's got 20 Zerglings and 2 Roaches. So that would be a very effective force versus a Stalker heavy army. It would not be a very effective force against a Zealot heavy army. And this is the danger of blind building, because if his opponent just went a bunch of Stalkers, and you know, we can cheat by pressing on units, so you got 2 Stalkers and 3 Zealots and 3 Sentries. So just based off that, I'm sort of guessing that he's expanding, because he doesn't have a lot of units. But that is the danger and the strength of blind building, is that if you get it right, you will probably be in a good situation. However, if you do not understand what your opponent's army composition is, you could be in a lot of trouble, or you'll just take a lot more casualties than you would have had you been aware of. Ooh, I do like the fact that RAWR did get his 3rd expansion fairly quickly. He is sort of undersaturated in this natural. I wanted to say it looked saturated, but it didn't look quite right. Yeah, so let's go back to RAWR's guy. So as you can see, he built an army and he's not doing anything with it, which is dangerous, because those 10 Zergling, or 20 Zerglings, or 10 larvae that could have been turned into 10 drones instead, and at that point he would have had 41 drones instead of 31. And okay, so he's getting Overseers. Overseers are a good scouting unit. You can poop out changelings. They're good for detecting observers, just like that, which denies the Protoss player scouting, denies him detection, and if he decides to build another one, then he can't build the Colossus. And Colossus are the horrible siege tanks of the Protoss race. More maneuverable siege tanks that do less damage. Alright. Okay, so the decisions. I just want to slow this down for a second. I'm just going to pause this so I can just talk about it for 1 minute. RAWR has no idea what his opponent is doing. He doesn't know if he's expanded, he doesn't know if he's taken his 3rd, doesn't know what his opponent's army composition is. Zerglings, you can send them out. You can send a big pile of them out, and they can just run around. They don't even have to attack anything. You can just run around with them, just to see what your opponent has, because Zerglings are so fast, and unless you just maneuver them into a terrible spot where sentries can force field them into, you know, isolation, where they get ground into bloody meat particles, Zerglings are an amazing scout unit. Same goes for Overseers. They can just drift around the edge of the map and take out scout. Sorry, I got really distracted in that mid-sentence when I noticed that the Overseer had a lot of different eyeballs that are all blinking at different rates. That was very distracting. I'll ask you not to blink more, Overseer. Okay, so lots of Roaches. Roaches are very effective versus Zealots. They're reasonably effective versus Stalkers in superior numbers. However, they are what do you call that? Overlord heavy. Psi? No, that's Protoss. Oh my god, that's embarrassing. But they do take up a lot of supply, which is an issue. However, this is, you know, it's a decent army. It's I would say it's like it's more designed to kill Zealots at this point than Stalkers. I have no idea if he has Roach speed. I'm just gonna check because I missed that. Yes, he did get Roach speed. How embarrassing for me. So he has Roach speed, so he can move around with Roaches without worrying about them just getting horribly killed off creep. Roaches off creep are, I want to say, as slow as Immortals, which are fairly slow, but I have no idea if that statement is true or not, so I'm just going to abandon it halfway through. Okay, so RAWR has a lot of Queens, and Queens are good for basically 2 things. They can blow their nose all over a hatchery. Come on, Queenie. Do it, Queenie. Do it, you know you want to. Look at her bright light. I heard it. helps you sneeze. No. It looked like she hiccuped. She hiccuped the sneeze, and then she didn't. Okay, but queens are good for injecting larvae, and they're good for spreading creep. And there we go. This one, you, come on, join in, do it. Inject that larva. You want to inject that larva. Okay, you don't want to right now. That's fine. For your own pace. Okay, so we have mutas. Mutas are very effective, but very micro-intensive. As soon as you build mutas, the understanding is that you'll basically be harassing your opponent non-stop until he builds enough units to fend them off completely. Oh my god, there's an attack coming. We didn't know that he moved out. We have no map control. We have no map awareness. Oh god, Queen's gonna die. Oh no, this is horrible. That is a huge army. There's two Colossus there, which will inflict mad casualties. Oh, so many shields going down, you can hear them. Oh, the Colossus is getting sniped. That was good. Now queue up lots of Zerglings. Queue up lots of Zerglings. Are you queuing up Zerglings? You're not queuing up Zerglings. No. Okay, so the Zerg army is just gonna die here because superior numbers. No, not roaches. There's too many stalkers for roaches. No, not the roaches. Zerglings. Zerglings are what you want. Zerglings in the money unit. Okay, so he lost his third. So at this point, he has tons of money. I would recommend building macro hatches because, as you can see, there's plenty of stalkers, and Zerglings tend to have a high casualty rate. And you need a lot of them. I just love macro hatches personally, especially when you have a surplus of money. Okay, so the food differential, not good. There's a significant lead for the Protoss player. Okay, so the Overseers are chilling out. So the purpose of the Overseers is wasted because you probably only need like one Overseer with your main army, one at the base, especially if you detect DTs are incoming. Okay, so no, you're not producing enough. Oh no, don't attack, you're outnumbered. Okay, so at this point, I'm just gonna cheat and just to see what the opponent has. Okay, so he doesn't have his third base either. So in terms of bases, it's even. However, looking at the units lost tab, Zerg did lose significantly more because he didn't retreat. And an important concept that you need to learn in StarCraft 2 is that when possible, you should only be fighting battles that you're sure to win. And it sounds cheesy, but it's the best way to play the game because even if you save a few units from your main army, that can be enough to at least deter or lessen the impact of a counterattack by your opponent. Alright, so Queens have full energy. They are not sneezing all over the hatchery. The hatchery offers them a hanky, and the Queen's like, no thanks. Oh, there she goes, and she just sneezed. Okay. Alright, so to the units, the Protoss has a higher economy just due to more probes. He has more tech, because Hydras are very effective versus gateway units, and they're very effective, well, fairly effective versus air units. I don't want to say anything's super effective versus Void Rays, because Void Rays are the bane of my existence, but Hydras are pretty good against gateway, like Stalker, Zealot, Templar, well, as long as I don't get Psystorm, and stuff like that. They have a super high DPS, but in terms of Colossus, they're pretty terrible because they take extra damage, they get hit in the back where they like to hide, and they just die quick. However, RAWR intelligently anticipated this when he built the Spire. Corruptors are an excellent counter to Colossus. However, or I shouldn't say counter, an excellent unit versus Colossus because they don't get distracted by other units. They can corrupt it, so it takes extra damage from everything, and they have fairly high hit points, so they don't die nearly as quickly as Muta. And if they survive, which is always a plus, you can later convert them into Broodlords, which is the flying siege tanks of the sky. However, yeah, that's a lot of roaches. So there is a diminishing return on any unit in StarCraft 2. The more you build doesn't necessarily mean the more damage they do. Unless, of course, we're talking about Void Rays. However, the Mutas are a harassment unit, much like the Zerglings. They are designed to abuse terrain and keep the opponent pinned to his base, so you are free to expand and build more units. And basically, once your opponent can fend off Mutas, you will either attack you or expand himself, and hopefully in either scenario he's more behind than you are. However, oh, here we go, moving in, oh my god, that's a huge death ball. Oh god, this is horrible. Oh, what a massacre. Alright, so, Colossus Stalker is a brutal combo to face. Especially once they get to a significant side where Zerglings can't really get us around, because the only real way to beat this is just to have an overwhelming number, like an amazingly large production and unit supply count. That way you can just wear down wave after wave of attack, but it's a pretty dirty combo. Okay, so as we can see, just looking at RAWR's camera, he has no knowledge whatsoever of his opponent. He didn't know that the third is up, he didn't know what the second looked like, and one thing you have to get comfortable is, as Zerg, harassing the opponent. And I'm not going to say attacking, because you want to avoid a straight up fight until the very end of the game as much as possible, unless they attack you and force you to face them, but you want to focus on harassing, and you can use Zerglings to, for example, all these things, and then just bring in like 3 or 4 Zerglings, try to take the Vespene gas probes, because sometimes your opponent forgets to put them back, and nobody likes having a huge amount of minerals. Everyone loves to have Vespene gas towards the end of the game. Or even a few Banelings, and just roll out, pew, 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 blow that up. And same goes right here, it's completely defenseless. Zerglings would be very effective. RAWR had tons of money, which, just imagine how many Zerglings that would have purchased. And that's another strategy too, is that if you have the Zelnaga towers, as soon as you see the red blob over here, you have your Zerglings positioned over here, or let's say, and as soon as they get past a certain point, like right around the midway, where no matter what their choice is, it's unfortunate because they'll attack you and their base will be defenseless and they'll lose the base, or they pull back and the damage has already been done and you can just run away for free, because Zerglings are super fast and they could give Ethiopian runners a run for their money. Alright, let's see what else. Primarily, need to get more comfortable building more drones. You want to be as greedy as possible, and 3 bases is about like ideal. I mean, you should set up future bases, but 3 bases mining simultaneously is pretty good in terms of, like, you don't want 120 drones, you just want 60, 70. That's like your key point. And so his opponent has upgrades, which is they're not crazy or anything, but you know, upgrades do count, especially versus roaches, which stalkers are very effective against because they get their particle disruptor. But that's the end of this game. I'm going to stop ranting and finish off the last game. It was a good game, RAWR. Just gotta scout more, use those overseers. It'll all come with time. That goes out to every player. Bye!